all coaches start out struggling to some extent. We usually start out as a struggling coach, but we want to be more than that. We really want to go to the next level. You call that the prosperous coach. And these seem to be two very different states of being, which they certainly are, but it's more challenging than that. Usually the struggling coach especially will see the prosperous coach like they're up on the top of the mountain, way above where they're at, above who they are as well. Like there's some special breed of coach. And not to mention that they're also across a chasm, the floor is lava, burning hellfire or something like that, that seems impossible to get through. It seems not just like somebody's better or more or beyond you, but also it can easily seem like getting where they are is also very challenging, if not impossible. Now, the truth, hopefully we all know, I mean, I'm hopefully speaking to the choir here, is that the prosperous coach isn't better than you. They're not necessarily a better coach. They're not a better person. They're not above you in any way. They're really on your level, but they are in a different place. And they have traveled a journey that you probably haven't quite traveled yet. And so even when we've equalized ourselves and we know that we're not some lower level of existence of a coach, there's still this painful reality that there is still a journey to travel. And it seems like a very challenging journey, a journey where you'd wonder whether you can complete that journey or not. And so all of the different gremlins, devils, demons that we face are, these are all very common, right? Working through a credibility gap as a coach because people don't necessarily believe that you're the coach for them, or a certain level of self-doubt, like, am I really the person who can do this? Getting clients is one of the big ones. The time issue is probably the most prevalent I see with our students. They just don't seem to have the time. That seems to be a real barrier for them. Gosh, if I just had all that extra time, well, then I could make this leap from struggling to prosperous. Coaching skill, building an audience. I mean, we could go on and on, right? There's like hundreds of these. Anybody want to chime in with something that I didn't include on this list?
I would say competition.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of other coaches out there in my niche already kicking butt, doing a great job. They're better than I am, or they have more clients than I do. They're an influencer and I'm not. They're good looking and I'm not. Absolutely. What else? Anything else?
Says niche. Paco says niche.
I don't know who to target. Who is my client supposed to be? And are they the right client? Which client do I want to coach rather than which client am I going to make money coaching? That whole challenge, right?
Another one is people don't value coaching.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't seem valuable to people, or it's questionable as to whether or not I can have somebody see the value, or people actually being afraid or resisting the possibility of engaging with a coach.
Another one I think is the concept that I haven't achieved success yet, so who am I to help anybody else, right? Well, if I'm not a perfect person, that's a paradox, and like then I'm a hypocrite if I like help anybody with anything, because who am I to say that, this is going to help you or improve your life when my life isn't perfect?
There's an internal aspect of that I think probably the self-doubt demon could maybe be analogous to, but there's also an external aspect of that, of what I would call the credibility gap. Like, I'm wondering if I'm good enough or if I'm successful enough to lead these people. And then also they're possibly wondering that as well. Like, should I follow this person versus somebody else?
Paco has one more in here I think is a really good one too, is the money, not having the money to invest,
right?
Going into different things.
I mean, you look at some of the more prosperous coaches out there, they have already existing systems and advertising and content and all sorts of different things that at least took time to build, if not took a lot of money to provide. I think I'm triggered to think about Hormozy talking about his content system that costs him $20,000 a month. He said, well, we were really successful at this because we did 200 to 400 pieces of content every single week. And it just so happens that, yes, we spent time to get on camera and do our thing, but then we also dumped $20,000 to $40,000 a month into this huge team that cooked that raw footage into highly consumable, popular content as well. Well, yeah, okay, if I had that kind of money, then I could potentially have a leg up on creating the success there. Bottom line is, whatever your gap is, whatever your demon is, whatever your big problem is that seems to be the barrier or something along the journey to prosperous coach that is not an easy thing to actually establish. That's what we're talking about here. So those things are real, or the perception of them makes them real, or both. Obviously, what we want is a bridge to get across that. And bottom line is, this chasm requires something that you don't necessarily just have instant access to. And so that's what we're looking at here, is how to bring these together. So the struggling coach, they might be an expert, might not. Maybe they feel like they're not ready. It's a long journey. They're dealing with their website or certification or other types of pressures, money, time, etc. We know what you want. These are the goals. That somewhere along this line is probably where you are. You're working on getting your first paying client. You're looking to make money or make more money. And then finally, you're looking to scale probably somewhere around 6 figures or better. You want to really expand what you're doing now that you're making money. And so these 3 usually are the goals that if you're going to feel like you're prosperous, you probably have to achieve just about all of these, or at least be well on your way, well on the journey, confidently moving in the direction of prosperity. And then that prosperous coach creates an inspiring, powerful, fulfilling coaching business that changes lives on your terms. And we want this not just for ourselves, but this is really what changes the world. When enough coaches are able to do this, coaching becomes an even more respected profession. People respect what they value, what they're willing to spend money on. More people turn to coaching for help. Together, we change the world for the better. We free our clients from limitations or suffering, making better business, relationships, and lives. That's the world that coaches want to create, generally speaking. And we need to move to prosperity if that's even going to be possible. Then the question is, what is that bridge really? And the answer to that question is this process of transformation. The bridge is not just a bunch of actions to take, although certainly there's actions involved. The bridge is a process of transforming from the struggling coach to the prosperous coach. So we just call that prosperous practice transformation for short. So what are the intricacies of this? Well, there are 3 pillars to a prosperous practice. I think just about anything that is a critical skill or a critical aspect of a prosperous practice could be easily organized into one or several of these 3 pillars. And so there's entrepreneurial transformation, is becoming the entrepreneur, transforming into the entrepreneur that actually can start and grow a business. Second, client attraction mastery, having the capacity to attract clients and mastering that process, huge pillar of a prosperous practice. And then finally, leading your tribe, whatever your niche is, actually leading them where they want to go to produce value. And also part of that leadership is attracting clients and having them engage in a business with you such that you're actually taken care of. Like you're actually paid for this. Is there any clarification or confusion around what these pillars are? Entrepreneurial transformation, the actual process of becoming an entrepreneur rather than just an employee or somebody who, is just like trying to do some work for some money, but really truly entrepreneurial, creating your own opportunity, finding where value is and transacting it with clients and customers, and then taking risks of time, money, energy, reputation, etc., intelligent risks, thoughtful risks, strategic risks, where you're willing to put something on the line in the matter of actually achieving the business results that you want. Client attraction mastery, again, getting clients is pretty straightforward, and all the aspects of what it takes to master that. And then finally, leading your tribe. This is usually where the coaching is actually happening. But that leadership of your tribe also occurs before they hire you as well. You're already adding value. You're already leading them. You're already transforming them even during that early stage. So the leadership process that you can master to engage with, get hired by, enroll, and then finally give a lot of value to that tribe so that they actually follow your lead. They're getting better results, and it's proof positive that you're a valuable coach in that niche.
I'll share my perspective, Jeff. The entrepreneurial transformation, to me, to describe it easily, would be doing the things that might not work. Like we don't have guarantees that something is going to work. That's what employees look for. They look for guarantees that things are going to work. And entrepreneurs create value by solving problems, looking for ways that they can turn things into something valuable and build something. And then they go out and they take these actions. They're showing up every day and they're doing the work and not having to be told what to do with the work and when to start doing it and how long to do it and did it work or not. So that's probably the first hurdle most coaches have to overcome. They simply do not do enough effort in entrepreneurial transformation. They're waiting, getting ready to get ready. So that's like the first thing they have to get clarity on. And that takes a lot of emotional fitness, right? And so you have to be willing to follow your process and just do the work with zero guarantees of knowing when it's going to work, and you have to operate that way, which is very counterintuitive to the way most of society operates. But it's really a behavior. Behaving like an entrepreneur is creating value, and doing these things that we know are the right things to do to succeed, but we don't know for a fact it's going to work. Client attraction, I would say that obviously that's getting clients, but it's also being able to speak in such a way and communicate in such a way to an audience that they are attracted to you. You're behaving attractively. You are communicating attractively. Your words are highlighting and understanding what matters to them so that they hear what you say and the things that you do, and they instantly go, he gets me or she gets me, right? So, and all the way through to helping them overcome the change that we all know transformation's about. It's about changing. People are afraid of change, right? So it's helping them to get through those things. The same reason people don't hire you is the same reason they don't get results. So we're on the front lines of that. So that client attraction is so huge because that's really where most coaches think, oh my gosh, I hate selling. I hate that part. Well, you know what? That's the first step of the transformation. The first step of the transformation is them making a decision to change. And
Yeah,
that
so like
decision to
when somebody
change,
says they hate selling or hate enrolling, that's like saying I hate transformation.
like saying I hate coaching, because that
Yeah.
is where the initial transformation is. It just is. Otherwise, they don't change, right? And then we go to the leading the tribe. That's also leading yourself, which is related to the transformation. And leading your tribe is also keeping clients. How long you're able to keep clients, how long are you able to advance them? And there's this concept in the coaching world that your clients are going to outgrow you. It's like bad to like keep a client for a long time, which I completely disagree with, because if you're transforming and you're getting coached and you're helping, your clients solve their problems, like when is their life perfect? It'll never be perfect. There's no reason it would ever be bad for a client to stay with you for the rest of their life or as long as you decide to coach. This whole like you're enabling them nonsense. As long as you are continuing to transform and grow and overcome challenges, because our lives are not problem free, right? Like it's never done until you die, right? Leading the tribe is leading yourself. It's also being able to continue to evolve and work with clients to help them to keep leveling up in their life.
So just to speak more specifically about that, whatever barriers you're perceiving points back to one of these pillars. So for instance, hey, I'm spending 20 hours a week pursuing clients, but they don't show up for discovery sessions, and the few that do never enroll. They always say it's too much money. That's client attraction mastery. You're not producing the result. Are you facing a problem with the prospects and the clients and how that's rolling? Yes, you are. But why you're facing that problem is not because of them. It's because of your pillar. Your pillar is not as strong as it could or should be potentially. My clients, they all sign up for coaching, but they quit after a month or two. That's lead your tribe pillar. So I'm not saying that there's not something to say about those clients. Like we can appreciate that, I wish I had better clients, but you want to take responsibility inside of one of these pillars for that pillar not being as strong as it could be. Wow, if I really was 10 out of 10 lead my tribe, probably people are going to stick around for more than a couple months, depending on the niche, depending on other variables. Whatever reasons why not are going on for you, that it's like that's why it's not working, then what pillar does that issue apply to? Because then instead of it being something you're a victim of, it's something that you might be able to strengthen and do something about. So we talked about these pillars. Inside of those pillars, these pillars support a step-by-step process. This is really the timeline. And the timeline constitutes 4 specific steps: starting coaching, enrolling clients, mastering your business model, and then finally scaling up. And it always happens in that order. You can't enroll clients if you haven't started coaching. You can't scale up if you haven't mastered your business model. So the first question on these steps is, first of all, what steps have you completed? Have you started coaching yet? You've done some consistent level of coaching. It's not just like one session. You've been coaching quite a bit. Have you enrolled clients? Have you enrolled a single client yet? Have you enrolled a good number of clients so that you really have the enroll client step under your belt? Like, yeah, you know what? I'm pretty used to enrolling clients now. It's a normal thing for me. Have you mastered your business model? I think a few of you might be further on than others in that process, possibly. But mastering your business model is a pretty big deal. Really optimizing every aspect of the business such that it's insanely profitable and it can scale. Really, step 4 is, it's certainly a process, but it's relatively anticlimactic after you've gone through step 3. Step 3 is usually the biggest desert to cross through because there's no measurable scaling up during stage 3. You're just figuring it out. You're tweaking things, optimizing things without necessarily being able to grow it right away because there's all sorts of different bottlenecks that you're confronting here. So which steps are completed already? And then of course, what step are you working on? Now, which step are you in that you haven't done it yet, or you haven't done it to the level of, like, you might have enrolled one client, but it's like, is that an accident? Is that a fluke? Can I consistently enroll clients? Maybe you're really still working on that step, even if you've made an enrollment or two. Or have you enrolled hundreds of clients and now you really know that's like totally handled for you, or pretty much, relative to actually being able to get your arms around that step, and now you're in the process of mastery, right? So what step are you actually in is the question here. What step are you working on, realistically?
This is a big one too, Jeff, especially that, as we know, that second and third one there, because one of the biggest things that a lot of coaches never get to is they never get to having a repeatable system to enroll clients over and over and over, like turning the faucet on, where all they got to do is show up and do that process that they're going to do. Anytime you're doing something more than once, you should have a process for it. If you don't, then you need to set one up, right? That's just basics. But that's what a lot of coaches are missing, is they'll get a client here or there, or maybe they'll get a client through one particular strategy. Maybe they'll go to family and friends to get a couple, or they'll do Facebook groups, or they'll go out and do speaking or whatever it is. But like that is still like a real problem for them, because what if that thing goes away? Maybe it's paid ads, whatever it is. What if that thing goes away? Well, now you don't have any other way to go and get clients. You have to develop a new skill to generate leads for your process. So these are all things to be aware of. Hey, where am I getting these folks? There's an old saying in sales that you don't know if you're a good salesperson until you get to the fourth sale, because anybody can sell their grandma and their mom and their cousin. It's when you go out into the real open market where no one knows you from Adam, and you're now in the environment with everybody else and you don't have any advantages. Now you have to go and you're playing the game on hard mode, if you will, versus easy mode before, right? And that doesn't mean we always have to play the game on hard mode. Don't get me wrong. We want to do the things that are most likely to succeed. But that first and second pillar are so hard for a lot of people because they try to skip those steps instead of going, what is my system to generate a lead, schedule a discovery session, let's call it a coaching session, whatever, and then enroll a certain number of those people into my coaching. Until we do that, it's really hard to master a business model.
And there are so many coaches, because we tend as coaches to be quite idealistic. And we don't just apply it to our coaching and our clients, we apply it to ourselves and our businesses. Or we tend to be very conceptual, like we really like thinking about models and concepts and ideas versus the actual tactical execution of something, the activity of it. And it's very attractive for many coaches to try and master their business model when they haven't actually completed step 2. They've enrolled 1 or 2 or 3 clients, and now they think they're mastering their business model, and they're planning this gargantuan, exotic idea of a business model and how it's all going to get tweaked and everything, and they're going to scale up huge. And they couldn't be further from that. But it sure is fun to think about, right? You haven't completed the step you're in. Acting like you're master in step 3 or 4, acting like you're mastering your business model or scaling up while you're really in step 2, enroll clients, doesn't make you move on past that step. You're just going to fail more at that step because you're not doing the actions that are necessary to actually complete that step.
Where that manifests a lot in coaches is it'll manifest in them wanting to create the perfect coaching curriculum. And they're spending all this time working on that coaching program or the coaching curriculum they're going to make. I got to have this amazing program. And they haven't even gotten far enough in enrolling enough coaching clients to even know what their coaching clients, like as in general, their niche, if you will. They don't even know what those people want. And they don't know what challenges those people are facing because they haven't worked with enough of those people. So they're trying to create this ideal program, but it's all in their head. It's all conceptual. They're not
theory. Committed to mastering something. They're simply not wanting to engage where it's necessary. It's not that they're so great about mastering their business model. They're just so out to lunch on enrollments that they don't want to deal with it. And so then they pat themselves on the back for doing some other work, and that's all wheel spinning. Because if you're not getting past step 2, you're just going to stay stuck in step 2.
Yeah. If you don't finish step 2, your business will die. Your business will die. You will have to work another job or get
Yep.
a benefactor of some kind, whatever it is, but you're not going to make it. But if you can enroll clients, you master step two, you can make all the mistakes in the world, really, at that point, because you'll constantly have new clients coming in, you'll constantly have income coming in. And from there, you can pivot forever, basically, anytime that you decide that you're going to pivot. So it's a really
Yep.
crucial step.
The point of that, just for simplicity, and I'll get back to slides here, the point of that is be real about where you actually are versus where you wish you were or where it's comfortable to be. And if that means taking a step back onto the step that you really should be working on, even if you're not focusing on it right now, then at least that puts you in reality mode as to what you're dealing with and what you're wrestling with, and then you can go win that battle. Impossible to win a battle that you're not willing to fight. And that may not be a great feeling, but it's going to feel great when you actually get to the other side of that. And then you can have the victory of that. So realistically, what step are you actually in that you are working on or you should be working on, even if you're not focusing on it as much as you need to right now? If the next actions are next actions that you don't want to deal with, and then that has you not honest with yourself about the fact that those are the next actions, then you can never have the breakthrough that would allow you to take that action. It's impossible because you're not even dealing with the reality. It's like, okay, I don't like reality, therefore let me just not look at reality, disengage from reality, engage in something that's not real, and then I can live in that world. But then you can never change reality because you're not actually wrestling with that. The first step to fixing, changing, improving that reality, even if it's painful, is to get that reality. And the moment that you actually give yourself a second to live inside of what may not be comfortable, what may be painful, what may be ugly, what may not feel right to you, is the moment that you actually give yourself a chance to transform it. Right? That's where your actual freedom could come from. So I really appreciate that, Chris. That's huge, is that self-honesty that it takes, the courage that it takes to face what you don't want to face, even before you deal with doing what you don't want to do. I mean, forget about taking the next action, just being honest with yourself about what the next action is. That alone is something that many coaches will never look at. So just being honest about that first. Doesn't mean you have to do it. Doesn't mean you're going to do it. At least you know what the thing is. I'll give you an example from my business. We were banned from Facebook advertising 6-7 years ago at this point. And we would generate hundreds and hundreds of $2 or $3 leads from Facebook ads. It was the biggest source of business that made the business model work really well. You were talking about earlier, Chris, like if you haven't mastered your business model and you just have one source of business and you really haven't mastered the entire model, as soon as that goes away, your business is broken. I had not mastered our business model. It was still going well, right? We were like, oh, this is amazing, right? And then we were banned from Facebook and we couldn't get our ad account back. So for years, we didn't do anything about it, right? We didn't touch it. And about a year or two into that process of wrestling with the worst possible impacts that you could imagine in a business from a major portion of the business that was no longer coming in, I made a plan and I wrote down 3 different actions that I knew I needed to take. And one of the 3 was get a Facebook ad account working again, because it was such a linchpin of the entire business. It really was and still is. And it took a bit just for me to be honest with myself about the fact that that was the thing to do. Like that's actually what has to happen. And then after that occurred, I started spending time and money working on what is going to be a sustainable way to get that account back and get the business going again in that respect. Did not succeed, just started taking small actions with it. And it was very slow going. It was very challenging. And I hated every second of it because I'm like, I already did this work. Well, like what? Like this isn't fair. I was succeeding. I did all the work. I did all the things. I was a good business person. I was such a great entrepreneur. And then this is what I'm given. This is what I get for it. You know, I mean, there was a part of me that just wanted to not quit per se, but just throw up my hands and say, like, I deserve better. Where's my parade? I shouldn't have to do any more than I've already done. And if this is the way it is, it's just not fair. like a little tantrum, right? And finally, at this point, Chris and I are working on getting a Facebook ad account that's going to be sustainable. We're working with an ad manager that is supporting us in the process. I've spent a lot of time, energy, and money to get to this point, and we're actually taking the next actions. It's only been like 6 or 7 years that I didn't take enough action. I could have handled this way quicker than I did, right? But that psychology, first of all, kept me from just being honest about what needed to happen, what the next action was. I wouldn't even give it, oh, you know what? We're just not going to focus on Facebook right now. We'll focus on all these other ad platforms. Don't worry about it, right? Screw Facebook. That was my attitude about it for a year or two after that occurred, right? And then finally, it's like, you know what? That's really where it's at. That's where the cheaper leads are. Like, if I'm actually honest with myself, we really got to get that handled. Got to go back to that, even though we were rejected by that. And then it took years to get to the point where we're really in momentum on it and actually taking fervent action. It's not because we couldn't have done a lot of this earlier. It's because it was almost like a traumatic event for me. And part of the trauma was not being willing to believe that that kind of catastrophically disappointing thing can happen in business after everything that was already done, after all the sacrifices that I had made. Just didn't want to face that actually could happen. And the facing of that took time, energy, and muscle. And then the action around the reality of that took time, energy, and muscle, and it still does to this day. So that's just one of mine. But for almost anyone in this part of the dealing with your business, probably has some of those where you don't want to be honest, or you've already been honest, but now you don't want to do it. And if you're working through that, that's what to get coaching on and get support with, so you can actually get past that, because that is the most human thing. And I don't know anybody, no matter the greatest entrepreneurs in history, probably at least temporarily had some of those issues at some point.
Hey, Jeff,
yes.
I want to say something if I could. Just one of the things I always say is that everything that you don't want to do is hard, right? Because you don't want to do it. That's what makes it hard, right? And that's certainly an example. Another quick example was, remember when I was not wanting to write.
Okay.
And I was a speaker. I'm a speaker. I did a whole thing on this. You guys will see the video
I'm
at
a
some
speaker,
point.
not a writer.
But I'm a speaker, not a writer. And it had, that was all a thing I just didn't want to do, right? But I knew I needed to do it. And you all have something like that. Like whatever, I don't know if it's making phone calls. I don't know if it's ads. I don't know if it's prospecting. I don't know if it's asking for referrals. I don't know if it's doing videos for your business. I don't know what it is for you, but whatever it is, if you say it's hard, it's probably because you don't want to do it. And then you got to go dig in and go, okay, what do I need to do that? What is it costing me not to do that? And what's the impact on my business? What are the consequences? What are the ramifications if I don't do anything about that? And another 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 20 years, whatever it is, goes by. What are the ramifications or consequences to my life then? And that can be a big thing. And then, like you mentioned, Jeff, like you just broke it down into those smaller action steps, right? It was like, hey, we don't have to fix the entire Facebook thing in one day. It can just be, this is what I'm going to do today about that.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the same thing with the writing. It was do one thing and then go back. And I had to learn to not be, I had to learn to be willing to write bad, because my story was that I couldn't write, like I wasn't allowed to write bad. Then I would never like write anything, because you write bad before you write good. It's got to be bad first, pretty much, right? So for me, I wasn't even getting off the starting line, or making it really hard for me to get off the starting line, because I didn't want to show Jeff or anybody, I mean, you guys, I didn't want to show you cruddy writing, bad writing. But that's how I had to get over that. Eventually, I did get past that, where I recognized this is just thinking and writing, and you put it out there and it's bad and you're just going to edit it. But that took me it took me too long to get past it.
And with the example that you shared, Chris, around writing and not writing and then writing, Chris transformed that with me constantly breathing down his neck like a rabid dog for weeks and weeks and weeks and months and years. I mean, the likelihood of you, Chris, having transformed that just kind of like in a vacuum is probably pretty slim. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's so much less predictable than when you've got somebody on the outside who doesn't share that limitation or doesn't believe in your limitation. and who could care less whether that's comfortable for you or not, right? They're like, it's not my problem, it's yours, fix it, right? It's somebody who's going to drag you across that finish line, or at least give you support that would start that process. And so in Synergy, those of you in Synergy, you have that person in Chris and in I, in the group sessions, etc. We're there to be an unrelenting force for the thing that you would never change if not for that some outsider actually was just like won't take no for an answer with you. And that's, frankly, guys, if I didn't have the team at Master Coach University, JTS Advisors, that there's all this expectation of who we are and what maintains the business and like who I'm supposed to be for you, I probably wouldn't bother with the Facebook ads either. But through that ongoing accountability from Chris and from Dr. Coiner and from Alan and from our clients and customers, etc., it gets me willing to get off of that weak muscle for myself of doing it the second time, even though I already did it what I thought was enough. So use your coaches for that. Those kind of bad issues, that's what to put on the mat in your sessions, because that's where you could turn water into wine. That's the magic of this. That is, to oversimplify it, it's just somebody that doesn't care about those limitations the way that you nurse them as a normal human being.
Yeah, that's the thing. One last point on that before we move on, if I could, is when it came to the writing, Jeff didn't hold me to that or make me do that. The option was presented to me as an option if I wanted to take that on. That's why the sales that you're doing in coaching is not manipulative. It's transformative because your prospects and your clients want the thing that you are rabbit dogging them, like Jeff rabbit dogged to me, whatever word you want to use for it. That's why it's not manipulation. It's not manipulation because they want the thing. That's why it's not manipulation. It's transformation because they actually want the thing. So that was presented to me like a sales session, if you will, although it was an email. It wasn't a sales session, but it was presented to me, and then I sat with it for a while. And we had a couple conversations about it, if you will, before I took that on.
Chris was still free to make that choice or not. My job was just to present the choice in a way where it's not like, well, I could just forget about that option. It's like, I've actually got to make a decision. It's a yes or a no for me. And I've got to acknowledge the impact of both of those. And I can just tell you from the outside, looking at Chris before and after, that it sounds like, oh, it's just writing emails, right? No, it's a different Chris after that process. It was, yes, writing emails, that's good to have that muscle. There's so much more that came out of that. And frankly, I think it's the same for me with the Facebook ads and the other challenges I've gone through in the last couple decades. It's like who I become in the process of facing that and getting past that is sometimes more valuable than the thing itself, although the thing itself obviously has got to be valuable, which is why we'd focus on it.
Right. That's why we challenge our clients in a loving way, right? We're challenged them on these free sessions and stuff, go through their obstacles that they have, because those are the things stopping them from getting what they want. We're here to help people get what they want. And that doesn't always mean holding their hand and kisses and hugs and you're wonderful and all that. Sometimes it's going to be, hey, you got to change. Are you willing to become that person? Get into your coaching, basically. And then they are enrolling in changing, and your coaching is the support system that helps them do that. So you're not manipulating them. They actually want the thing that you're helping them to get. As long as you stay in that place, you're not manipulating. You're literally helping pull them up to who they actually want to become. So Jeff helped me with that in the writing, right? And you want to look at where you're at, who you must become in that next phase of your business, and go, okay, what is that I want to become, so that you can then get that help and support and make that transformation, because that's the key. It's that you actually want that. If you wanted to stay the same, then you wouldn't do anything.
And that covers the 4 steps to a prosperous practice, all that are supported by that prosperous practice transformation pillars: entrepreneurial transformation, client attraction mastery, and leading your tribe. And once all of that transpires, this becomes the bridge for you. Everything that's the bridge to prosperous practice is inside these 7 different items, 4 steps and 3 pillars.
Hey, it's Chris here. I hope you found those insights valuable. And if you want to truly transform your coaching practice, you're welcome to join the next Prosperous Practice training. It's just around the corner, and it's packed with even more principles to elevate your coaching career. Click the link and you can join our next training. When you do that, you're taking a significant step towards prosperity, understanding the nuances of successful coaching, and making a real difference in the lives of those you coach. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos from Master Coach University.